Good morning, Chair.
Morning, Libera. How are you?
Morning, Chair.
Am I audible?
No, your volume is very low.
Low. Where do I correct the volume now? Let me try to check. Where do I correct that? I'm trying to see accessibility in this. Oh, yeah, okay. I'm trying to check the volume. But is it better now?
It's much better, but still not audible enough.
Can the doc help me there with the volume?
Yes, Chair, I can
Chair?
say, you're actually coming through clearly on my side. It sounds more like you were just a bit under the weather.
Oh,
But the volume itself is
it's okay.
Now
completely,
it's okay, Chair.
fine, my side. Yes.
All right. Now I'll try to raise my voice. Are we ready, Libera?
Yes, Chairperson. So far, you are 3 members in the platform.
Okay.
There's an apology for Honorable Mama Rekhan. She's attending the WIPS meeting, and also she's gonna immediately after that meeting go to attend the finance meeting. So she won't be with us. Oh, actually, you are 4 now. It's
All right.
yourself, it's Honorable Khai, Honorable Moshodi, Honorable Boshoff. So we can proceed.
From the ministry.
I see. I'm not sure who's the head of the delegation. Maybe they can.
Okay. There is something that happened here. I'm reviewing my Zoom now. Oh yeah. Good morning, colleagues, honorable members, our guest. Let me take this opportunity to formally open this meeting, the meeting of the Select Committee on Transport, Public Service and Administration.
Recording in progress.
And planning and evaluation. We are going to deal with 2 items, the minutes of the previous meeting, which we agreed that we'll start with them and then thereafter receive the 10-year review report from the department. Any apologies that formally you want to record?
Yes, Chairperson. I want to record the apology which we received from Honorable Mama Rekhan. She's attending the WIPS meeting, and after the WIPS meeting, she's going to attend the Finance Committee's meeting.
Okay.
So she won't be with us today.
All right. And then let's hear from the Parliamentary Liaison Officer.
There is a hand, Chair.
Honorable Khai.
Thank you very much, Chair. I just want to indicate that, as I indicated yesterday, that I'm still in Luanda, Angola. So I won't be in the meeting for long, as I indicated when I contacted you this morning. So I just want it to be on record that I will be leaving in an hour's time. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Let's then, having said that, I see the hand of Tshimologo.
Good morning, Chairperson. It's Tshimologo from DPME, Parliamentary Support in the DG's office. We have tendered the apology for Dr. Robert Nkuna, who will not be attending this morning. Have sent a formal apology. He is in the Eastern Cape with the district development model work monitoring them. We also understand that the DM and the minister will also not be able to join. DPME will be represented by 5 commissioners led by Dr. Ramatsetse, and we have also the acting deputy National Planning Secretariat, Mr. Ashraf Karim. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. You said who's the commissioner that will be leading the team?
Dr. Boitumelo Ramatsetse. Thank you.
Ramatsepe. Okay. Thank you.
Ramatsetse.
Oh, my apology for that. Thank you, Mayor Tshimologo, for bringing to our attention those apologies. Let's then, having said that, note the apologies and then request the committee secretary just to flag the agenda.
Enrico, can you flag the agenda?
Okay, Slupex.
Thank you, Enrico. Honorable members, those are the 2 items on the agenda. We will try to manage them because at 12 we have the Committee of Chairs meetings. So, but I suspect we would have done justice to the agenda by that time. Let's then, without any waste of time, then note the agenda and then request request Enrico to flag the minutes of the last meeting. Members, those are the minutes of the 28th of February 2024, where we received a presentation from Praza, and the attendees are as reflected before us. The apologies are also noted there. And then the guest that we hosted was led by the Deputy Minister, DM Mangu, and the Plaza Board and his and a team, and then the parliamentary staff. Those are the apologies that were noted, and then the presentation led by the DM on the annual report. And then those are the observations and comments that were made. Any correction? And then concrete proposals that were made by members as clearly articulated. And the breakdown of employment opportunities. And those are the minutes that were adopted. Before the minutes, we dealt with the program. Yeah. we noted the three bills that were referred to us to, but then reflected on the pressure of time. But we then also noted the bills also that were referred to us. Any correction that members might have identified that needs to be corrected, amended, or any omission that we might have left?
Chairperson.
Yes, Honorable Tofeni, welcome.
Good morning, members, and good morning, Chairperson. In my initial, supposed to correct there, I'm not L, I'm N, Miss N.
N.
Yes, N, not L.
Oh yeah, thanks for that correction,
Okay.
Honorable Tofeni.
Thank you.
Deputy Secretary, make sure that you correctly
Noted,
identify
Chair.
another member. With that correction, then can we get a mover for the adoption of the minutes? It's a true reflection of what transpired on the 28th of February. Honorable Khalid.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to move for the adoption of the minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Khalid, for moving the minutes to be adopted. Can we then get a seconder to that? Seconder.
Chairperson.
Hello, Tafeni.
Maybe my hand is not okay.
I can't
Thank you,
see.
Chairperson. I'm seconded the move of the minutes, adopted the minutes.
Thank you for
Thank
seconding. Thank you, Honorable Tafeni. So therefore, the minutes are duly adopted. And then can we then move to the next item on the agenda? We will then request Prof to the Commissioner to lead the presentation. Then the team that will be presenting, I think they will be introduced by the Commissioner. You said this Commissioner Rama Tebe. Can you just correct me with that, Commissioner?
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, colleagues.
Morning, Commissioner Ramatete. My humble and sincere apology. I know that we are very jealous about our surnames and the pronouncement thereof. Over to you.
Okay. No, thank you, Chair. Thank you for inviting us to this committee. We are humbled by the invitation. So I'm not here alone, Chair. I'm with my fellow commissioners. So I'm with Commissioner Dr. Tshepo Fela. I'm also with Commissioner Sue Bannister. I'm also with Commissioner Hope Makidimisha, as well as there is Commissioner Puli Molokwani, who is going to join us a little bit in a while. So as commissioners in total, there's 27 of us. So each of us responsible for various areas of the National Development Plan. So we are supported by the team from the Secretariat, NPC Secretariat, which is currently led by Mr. Ashraf Karim, who is in the meeting today as well. So without wasting any further time, Chair, I'll go straight to my presentation. Please confirm if the presentation is visible, Chair.
It is visible, Commissioner Ramatete. We can continue.
Thank you very much for this invitation. I'm here going to share with you the findings of the National Development Plan 10-year review that we have conducted for the period 2012 to 2022. And we've also published it together with a call to action. So, as you are aware, Chair, in 2022, the country celebrated 10-year anniversary since the adoption of the NDP, which was adopted in 2012, not only by the ruling party, but also by other opposition parties as well. So, in celebration for this event, as a commission, we chose Fort Hare University as a particular place of interest to us because of its historic significance. So I think, Chair, you remember the likes of Nelson Mandela, Julius Nyerere, Robert Mugabe are some of the alumni from that institution. So the NPC conducted this review in order to provide an update on the NDP performance indicators over the past 10 years. Not only that, but to also identify course correction measures, Chair, for the remaining 7 to 8 years towards 2030. So together with this 10-year review, like I mentioned, we've also published a call to action, which highlight a number of key initiatives that government has embarked on to show that there is hope towards attainment of the national development goals towards 2030. So among those initiatives includes National Infrastructure Implementation Program, the Just Energy Transition Implementation Program, and the National State Capacity Building Program. So I'll highlight some of these programs as I go on with my presentation. So my presentation outline is structured as follows. I'm going to touch base on a background of the NPC so that everyone gets a sense of what NPC is all about, what is the history behind the NPC. I'm also going to highlight the mandate of the Third National Planning Commission, which is the current one, which is serving from 2021 to 2026. I'm also going to touch base on the 2030 NDP targets and outcomes. Also highlight some of the key findings from the initial review, which was published in 2020, as well as provide the rationale for the NDP 10-year review. So in terms of the findings, how I'm going to report them, I'm going to report them in 3 categories. I'm going to focus on economy, social, and governance. And I'm also going to identify some of the contributing factors that led to some of those findings in those 3 different areas. And I'm also going to address issues that are cross-cutting across all these themes of economy, social, and governance. Issues like youth, issues like women, persons with disabilities. So amongst some of the other cross-cutting issues which I will be reporting on. I'm also going to end my presentation with NPC proposals on the NDP 10-year review. So, Chair, just to give a background behind NPC. So we are an independent expert advisory body mandated to look at long-term planning, cross-cutting research, as well as independent approach to country's developmental agenda. So the NPC has been established through a revised green paper, the National Planning Commission of 2010. So the first commission was established with the mandate to create the NDP. So if you remember, Chair, that commission was led by Trevor Manuel, who was the minister in the presidency then. The deputy at that time, it was His Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa. So in 2015, the second NPC was formed with a mandate to provide guidance and the support for the measurement as well as the implementation of the National Development Plan. So if you remember, Chair, at that time, the NPC was led by Jackson Mthembu, the late Jackson Mthembu, supported by the deputy chairperson that time was Professor Makgoba. So in 2021, the Third National Planning Commission was appointed chair. At that time, we were led by Honorable Mondli Ngungubele, who was the minister in the presidency then. We are currently led by Minister Maropeni Ramakgopa, who is currently the minister in the presidency, also responsible for the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation. She is supported by the Deputy Chairperson, Professor Tenyoko Maluleka, who unfortunately couldn't make it for this session. So just some key highlights through the NPC journey. So as I've mentioned, the first NPC was appointed by President Jacob Zuma in 2010. So in 2011, the first NPC conducted a study where they came up with a diagnostic report, which was published, and that diagnostic report highlighted a number of challenges that NPC needed to address at that particular time. That diagnostic report led to the draft of the National Development Plan, which was then released and then handed over in 2012 to Cabinet to adopt the plan, as well as it was also adopted and supported by a number of political parties. In 2014, there was a launch of the Midterm Strategic Framework. So a Midterm Strategic Framework, it's a 5-year implementation framework, as well as an integrated monitoring framework, which definitely promotes alignment, coordination, and integration of all developmental planning instruments. So that the idea behind the MTSF was to assist in ensuring that we implement the NDP in 5-year intervals. In 2015, President Zuma appointed the second commission. So the second commission conducted a number of research studies. And in those research studies, they came up with various proposals. One of the key studies that was conducted is a position paper on energy, as well as a position paper on township and rural economy, and also a position paper on the contribution of state-owned enterprises to Vision 2030. And most of these studies or research, they are in our databases. You can also find them in our website of the National Planning Commission. So in 2019, an NDP monitoring second term of the midterm strategic framework was launched, which focused on the period between 2019 and 2024. So also in 2020, there was NDP review, which was conducted, which also highlighted a number of key challenges that needed to be addressed by that commission at that time. So in 2021, President Ramaphosa appointed the third National Planning Commission, which is the current one, which has also been given a mandate to look into ensuring that we address some of the challenges that are highlighted in the National Development Plan. So in doing so, the third National Planning Commission currently busy with implementation tracker tool, which is currently in development, which is able to assist us to track some of the indicators that are indicated in the National Development Plan, so that we can measure how far we have gone in achieving those indicators as opposed to the targets that have been set. In addition, we've also written this report of the 10-year review, which is a kind of a way of reviewing how far we have went since the National Development Plan has been adopted. So just to highlight what our mandate, our first mandate given to us was to lead the development and the periodic review of the long-term National Strategic Plan for approval by the Cabinet. Mandate number 2 is to support strong leadership that will be required to mobilize society to promote the acceleration in the implementation of the National Development Plan. So with this, Chair, our communication task team has embarked on a number of initiatives to mobilize society around the National Development Plan. I think we have seen a number of campaigns that we have embarked on in both televisions and in some of the airports. So we have embarked on a number of these campaigns to ensure that we mobilize youth, business, NGOs, labor, civil society around the National Development Plan. Our third mandate was to assist in forging conversation among key stakeholders, as well as leading effective and impactful social compact on a number of key issues facing the country. So on this, Chair, a number of stakeholder engagements have been held, a number of key stakeholders have been engaged, So, for instance, as a commission, we have grouped ourselves into work streams. One of our work streams, we call it the economy work stream. We've engaged with the IDC, the World Bank, the Liquor Boards, the DBSA, as well as the Presidential Climate Commission. Our other working group, which is the social group, we have engaged with the likes of Department of Basic Education, Department of Higher Education and Training. We also engage with SASSA, DSD, as well as Department of Home Affairs. In terms of governance, we've also engaged with a number of key stakeholders, like the municipalities, Waterberg municipalities, eThekwini municipalities. We're also working together with DPME on the planning bill, which I'll also talk to later on, as well as we've also engaged the South African Human Rights Commission, as well as the Independent Electoral Commission on a number of issues that we're working on related to governance. Our fourth mandate is to advise on issues such as food security, water security, energy choices, economic development, and many others. So on that chair, we have produced a number of advisory notes, a number of op-eds have been published. We have also provided inputs into a number of bills, and we have also secured a number of, or we have also embarked on a number of memorandum of agreements with various partners that will assist us in addressing some of these issues. Number 5 is to undertake research and build a body of evidence on critical matters for long-term planning and development of South Africa. So on that chair, I've mentioned the position papers that we have came up with, as well as key reports that we have also generated in that regards as a result of the research that we have conducted. Our 6th mandate is to monitor, review, and assess the progress in achieving the National Development Plan. So on that chair, one of the deliverables is this current 10-year review, which I'm presenting today, as well as the NDP dashboard, which I've mentioned earlier as a platform where we can actually track some of the key indicators as indicated in the National Development Plan. So on a yearly basis, we also publish a report on NDP indicators and targets, which gives us a sense of where we are in terms of achieving our targets. Our 7th mandate is to provide a body of evidence-based advice on futuristic national planning and foresight scenario planning to implement the plan towards 2030 better. So on that chair, we have embarked on a number of workshops. One of the workshops that we had last year was scenario planning and futures thinking. And we are in the process of developing fully fledged scenarios, as well as strategic roadmaps that will assist us in terms of addressing issues of unemployment. So our last and 8th mandate is to contribute to the development of international partnerships and networks on national planning. We are collaborating with a number of international organizations. Just to mention a few, we are collaborating with United Nations on the agriculture and food. We've also collaborated with the World Health Organization, especially on the national health insurance. So these are some of the 2030 NDP targets. So the NDP envisaged by 2030 that there will be quality healthcare for all. It envisaged a social protection, an economy that will create more jobs, transition to a low carbon economy, an inclusive and integrated rural economy, building safer communities, reforming the public service, reversing the spatial effects of apartheid, as well as improving the quality of education and training. So with regards to quality healthcare for all, Chair, the NDP envisaged that we can do that if we increase the life expectancy from 0 to 70 years, especially if we focus on the equal standards of healthcare for all, as well as we reduce the prevalence of non-communicable diseases. In terms of social protection, the NDP envisaged that no one should live below the poverty line. We should address the issue of hunger and malnutrition, and also provide support to the unemployed. In terms of an economy that will create jobs, the NDP has highlighted that the unemployment rate should fall from 24% in 2012 to 6% in 2030. So which means that 11 million jobs need to be created. In terms of transition to a low carbon economy, so in addressing that, there should be a decline trajectory for greenhouse gas emissions, as well as we should be looking at issues of capacitating our energy supply in terms of ensuring that we integrate 20,000 megawatts of renewable energy. In terms of inclusive and integrated rural economy, the NDP has highlighted that the agricultural sector and the agro-processing sector has a potential to create both direct and indirect jobs. And that's what we are focusing on in addressing some of those red tapes in that area. In terms of building safer communities, the NDP envisaged that by 2030, people should live in this country feeling safe and should have no fear of crime, especially women and children. In terms of also our police force, they're supposed to be well-resourced in terms of achieving that. In terms of improving the quality of education, the NDP also envisaged that we should make ECD a priority, as well as emphasize on issues of literacy as well as numeracy. We also need to address issues of infrastructure backlogs, as well as address enrollment as well as throughput rates. I think with the current metric results, we have a sense of improvements that have been made in that regard. So in terms of the 2020 NDP review findings, which was the initial review which was conducted, there's a number of key issues that were highlighted. So with that review, we have seen that unemployment had been on the rise, spatial inequality challenges persisted. However, there were also other areas where there was progress, such as social protection, especially in terms of health, as well as access to social assistance. From that review, we've also highlighted that economic growth had been stagnant, and this was due to a number of key factors. And some of the factors, I'll speak to them when I speak about the findings of the economy. Service delivery had worsened, coupled with economics labor market difficulties, which negatively affected delivery of social wage and to the poorest people. So poverty was also on an upward trend, as well as inequality were persistent. So in general, the outcomes and the quality of the NDP objectives required a significant improvement. So what was the rationale behind the 10-year review? The review interrogates the factors that affected the implementation of the National Development Plan since its adoption, including consideration of domestic as well as international crises. So there's a number of key domestic crises that have happened. You can remember the likes of the July unrest. There's a number of also international crises that have also occurred, such as the Russia-Ukraine war. So all those events are highlighted in this review. The review also assesses the progress that has been made with key NDP targets of eliminating poverty, reducing inequality and unemployment. It evaluates the extent to which planning has been institutionalized and the reforms of the country planning system across all the spheres. The review focuses on the period 2018 to 2022. That's where the emphasis, that's why I said it builds on what the review of 2020 has published. So the review was required to determine the progress made as well as identify course correction measures based on the changed circumstances over the last 10 years. So, like I said, we have classified these findings in 3 categories in the form of social, economy, governance issues as well. So we have engaged a number of stakeholders. As you see some of the images on the slides, those are some of the stakeholders that we have engaged. And also we have also conducted a number of workshops, seminars in the process leading up to this review. So it's all about making the puzzle fit chair. It's about achieving the aims and the goals of the NDP towards 2030. So as a NPC, we believe that we can do this by drawing on the energies of our people. So if we say we want to grow an inclusive economy, if we say we want to build a human capabilities, if we say we want to enhance capacity of the state, if we say we want to promote the leadership and partnerships throughout society, we need to be engaging with the whole of society. This includes the private sector, the NGOs, and also other relevant stakeholders. So a number of these events was held in the view that we engage these stakeholders so that we can ensure that we achieve the aims of the National Development Plan. So just to give a sense of where we are in terms of the targets. So the column in yellow is highlighted in terms of the targets that have been set towards 2030. So when you look at the GDP growth in terms of average percentage, you can see 2030, the target is 5.4%. So in 2022, when we published the 10-year review, it was 1.1%. So when we also look at investment, the target is 30%. We're sitting at 14.1% in 2022. In terms of employment, the target is 24 million. In 2022, we're currently sitting at 16.1 million. In terms of employment ratio, that means we're looking at employment over working age population. The target was 61%. We're currently sitting at 39.9% in 2022. So these are some of the key targets that I've highlighted, and just to give a sense of where we are by the time we publish the review. So firstly, I'm going to talk about the findings of the economy. So the economy remains in a low growth trap. Growth has been average 1.1% for the period, with per capita GDP growth negative. High levels of concentration and barriers to entry of new firms, especially SMMEs. Spatial inequalities challenges persist. Income poverty has been on the rise since 2015. 19.4 million in poverty in 2020. As we've also discovered that poverty also differs substantially by race. Private investment has also declined. South Africa remains the most unequal country in the world, with incomes that are highly polarized. Wealth inequality is much larger than consumption expenditure inequality. Unemployment has increased to 32.9%, with 8 million unemployed and 3.6 million people discouraged from even applying. Lack of energy security, and in particular a reliance of electricity supply, which is widely recognized as a major obstacle to growth and has become an increasing concern. So what are some of the contributing factors to some of the challenges that I've highlighted? So lack of employment creation, transformation, innovation, and competitiveness. Also, measures to address climate change, global response to contain the COVID-19 pandemic are also a contributing factor. The impact of lockdown saw informal enterprises decrease by 25%. SMME development challenges, lack of finance, access to markets, provision of basic infrastructure such as water, sanitation, electricity, and also regulatory and administrative inefficiencies such as the red tapes. Energy crisis, which we are currently facing, as well as the rise of criminal syndicates, in particular in the mining and the construction sector, which is hampering the growth prospects in all areas of our economy. So in terms of the social findings, dual health system is characterized by inequalities in quality, efficiency, and effectiveness, progress on life expectancy and infant mortality, further action required to meet the NDP health-related goals, the implementation of the NHI bill, may also have unintended outcomes such as governance issues, the status of medical aid schemes, as well as potential for corruptions. A number of grant beneficiaries has grown, such as the child support grant falls well below the food poverty line. The schooling has improved, especially the bachelor passes surpasses the NDP targets. The stunting prevalence has remained unchanged in relation to the set targets, as well as if we have also noted that there are several progress in the social sector. However, it has been too slow with regression in some cases. So I've highlighted some of these progress that we have made around the social grants and so on. So what are some of the contributing factors that have led to some of these challenges? Like I said, the effect of COVID-19 pandemic, the high level of poverty, contributing factor of vitamin A deficiency of children under the age of 5 years is lacking in terms of is a lack of exclusive breastfeeding during the first 6 months. Child support grant and national school nutrition program contributed to the decline in child hunger rates. High employment rate results in social grant supporting households, poor sequencing of program interventions, as well as inability to prioritize. In terms of the governance findings, there were also a number of challenges that were highlighted from the review. Spatial policy reforms inadequate, majority located far from unemployment opportunities, inadequate approaches to human settlements, national framework towards professionalization of the public sector is also a good progress towards addressing some of these issues. Progress made on key pieces of public service legislation to strengthen state capacity. Also, despite government measures to address crime, the crime still remains a problem. Unevenness in the state capacity remains a challenge. The planning framework is still to be promulgated. The designation of director generals in the presidency as the head of public administration, as well as DG in the premier's office, and the extension of tenure are additional positive measures. So in terms of the contributing factors, persistent social inequalities and the lack of leadership affecting the social cohesion, lack of capacity within the state to execute plans, state capture, and corruption, as well as international as well as local shocks. Lack of trust in the police and inaccessibility of police stations, and perceived corruption within the police service. Lack of inadequate alignment between planning, budgeting cycles, processes, incoherence in spatial planning systems, misalignment of planning cycles, lack of legislation that will properly institutionalize the emergent planning systems, and poor productivity, corruption, wastage, sabotage, leakage, coupled with lack of accountability have all undermined efforts to build the state capacity as well as service delivery. What are some of the cost-cutting issues? Gender crimes remain an issue. Youth continue to face or continue to be disadvantaged in the labor markets. High unemployment amongst youth. So very few state institutions have factored youth development in their planning. Implementing NDP requires a gender focus if social and economic objectives of reducing poverty as well as inequality are to be met. Slow implementation of programs focusing on persons with disabilities, and pandemic social impact on South Africa has been high, impacting on poverty, inequality, and unemployment. So approximately 2.2 million South Africans lost their job during that period. And also the pandemic forced government to make difficult policy choices to restore macroeconomic stability and to deal with health and socio-economic crisis to accelerate growth and make the economy more inclusive. So what are some of the NPC proposals for the 10-year review? So the NDP proposes a number of key steps. Firstly, to maintain the current fiscal and monetary policies until expansion is possible, to establish a strong public-private partnership and strengthen trust to meet public sector goals and build an inclusive economy. Is to also address logistic issues and licensing bottlenecks to unlock mining industry potential, and to also address financing challenges, land reforms, logistical constraint, irrigation rights to unlock agriculture sector's potential. As I've mentioned before, that agriculture has a potential to create both direct and indirect jobs, taking decisive actions against economic crimes like theft, infrastructure vandalism, construction sector extortion, as well as illegal mining, as well as working towards reducing red tapes and increasing financing for small businesses. So in terms of the initial bill, the government should consider its government limitation before igniting the bill, provide comprehensive ECD services that will also focus not only on education, but also health, to ensure appointments of public sector and SOE boards are based on merits rather than political consideration, and improving SOE reforms for SOEs such as Eskom, Transnet, and Sandra, because these are key SOEs which are responsible for key infrastructure such as national roads, movements of goods through freight and rail. Institutionalization of planning across all levels of government, ensuring public participation is crucial, as well as to finalize the integrated planning bill to guide the developmental planning and corresponding institutional structure, as well as implementation of the framework on professionalization of the public service. So, like I said, together with this review, we have published a call to action. So in our call to action, we are emphasizing to say the NDP remains as relevant as ever. So to reach the NDP goals of economic, social, environmental fundamentals must all be in place. A comprehensive and coordinated multi-sectoral partnership approach to development must be adopted. So this approach must be an approach that is rooted in good governance, economic transformation, social cohesion, a just transition to a more sustainable development pathways, as well as bias in favor of the poorest of the poor. So our first call, Chair, is we call on the President to use his high office to advocate for the return of the NDP to the center of all government planning. We call on Cabinet and all government departments to create a policy environment that prioritizes the needs of the poorest of the poor. We call on Parliament to refocus on NDP when holding entities to account. We call on local government to focus on the core responsibility of providing services. We call on the business sector to make its own contribution to the attainment of the NDP goals. We therefore call on all South Africans, Chair, to play their part in the restoration of hope in a more vigorous pursuit of the goals of the NDP over the second decade of the National Development Plan, building up to 2030. So in a nutshell, we still say it is our future. Let us make it work. So I end my presentation on that note. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, for the presentation. We will then open the floor to members of the State Committee for engagement. I've noted Honorable Team and then Honorable Khai. Honorable Team. Or let's start first with Honorable Khai because he's in transit. Honorable Khai.
Thank you very much, Thanks.
Honorable Khan, we can't hear you.
Hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yes. Thanks very much, Honorable Chair, and thanks to the Commissioner for the presentation. Firstly, my question would be perhaps shouldn't we also add, instead of being an NPC, it should be NPMC, so that there's an element of a consistent monitoring. It should not just be planning, but also monitoring the implementation of the plans. Because for me, that because the commissioner was also reporting on some of the targets that have not been met, rather than it being an after, I don't know, maybe the right word, I don't want to say an after, or maybe after action, just like the AG is doing to audit the departments and entities and give outcomes after the implementation or non-implementation. Shouldn't it rather be maybe on quarterly basis? The NPC also should play the role of monitoring and also bring to the attention of the responsible departments in terms of implementing the targets that are set. The next question would be on the low or lack of private investment. What is it that the government should be doing to encourage the private sector to invest in the economy of the country? Because the presentation talks about poor or low investment by the private sector. Thank you so much. Those are the two issues I wanted to highlight.
Thank you, Honorable Khai. Honorable Prataseth.
Thank you, Chairperson. Yeah, Chairperson, I feel that when we receive a presentation from like this, I have two thoughts in my mind. The first thing is that I feel terribly sorry for our colleagues in DPME because they effectively are watching a slow motion train crash. They're watching things falling apart. And I just get the sense that they are completely and utterly unable to, it's not within their mandate, but maybe it should be, to instruct departments on how to perform better to achieve the targets. If we go to the page where we look at the targets and the indicators, you know, growth, the target for 2030, only 6 years away, was 5.4%. In the last quarter, we had 0.1% growth. The Gini coefficient is the same. If you go down to, if you look at that, the second column, which is all the targets, if you go down to employment, to reduce unemployment, the target by 2030 was to reduce unemployment by 6%. And we're currently sitting in 2022 at 32.9%, and we know that that's grown. The target in 2030 was to have 24 million people employed. And we currently below the 16.1 million of 2022. So, you know, the concern I have, and the question I asked before when DPME came to before us, was on a percentage scale, what percentage of the goals of the NDP have been achieved? And the entity was unable to give us an answer on that at that time. I don't know if they're able to give it now, but I would imagine that that percentage is incredibly low. And so the first question really is what is the point of the DPME if their job is just planning and monitoring, but they cannot actually intervene? They cannot actually tell departments that, look, if you want to achieve this outcome by 2030, you have to do the following. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. And so at the end of the day, the DPME is left to basically almost begging, as they did as the commissioner pointed out in the last slide of the presentation, and I don't say this in a demeaning way, but actually pleading with government, pleading with parliament, pleading with departments to take the NDP seriously. But other than pleading, they have no actual powers to actually intervene and say, look, this needs to be done if you want to achieve economic growth, if you want to achieve low unemployment rates, if you want to increase the amount of people employed, if you want to reduce the Gini coefficient, they're actually, at the end of the day, ending up as an entity that is just pleading with government to actually do the right thing. So I don't know if there's any comment from the Commissioner on that, but it's just certainly a statement I'd like to make. And I feel for our colleagues in that department, because I feel that they're just watching a slow motion car crash and there's nothing really they can actually do about it. The second question I wanted to ask was, is, you know, if you're trying to unbundle any problem, sometimes it helps to break it down into its constituent parts in order to establish which parts are not working and which parts are. And so my question to the Commissioner is, do their studies look at just the country as a whole, or do they look at province by province, which then feed into the whole? It would be very interesting to see comparisons between the various provinces in the country on the indicators that are presented in the NDP target. And so the question is are those stats available? Does the Commissioner's workforce, do they actually analyze province by province how these indicators are going, or do they just look at the country as a whole and lump it all into one basket? Because I do suspect, Chair, that there are certain provinces that are doing better on some of these metrics than other provinces. Thank you.
Thank you, team, for those questions. Honorable Mashuri.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Good morning, everybody. Chair, let me also welcome the presentation from the Commissioner. Chair, I've got one or two questions that I want to ask Commissioner. On the issue of the stakeholders campaign, the Commissioner said that they met the stakeholders like municipality, independent commission, and other stakeholders. My question is that, Commissioner, do you satisfied about the participation of these stakeholders thus far? That is my first question, Honorable Chairperson. The second one, Chairperson, is on the issue of unemployment, 11 million jobs due to be created, if I'm correct, or listen very careful when Commissioner was presenting. So I just want to check, do you have a strategy plan put in place to make sure that you perform this task? Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. That is the only question that I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Shori, for those two questions. Then from my side, Commissioner, the first question that one wants to pose relates to the aspect that emerges from the assessment made, and it is quite clear that the assessment also pinpoints the importance of the mandate of the National Planning Commission, and linked to that is previously when the department appeared before the committee, it was indicated that due to COVID, the 29 funded posts were lost during the budget reprioritization, And we did highlight this as a concern, and the question would be as to whether has the department been able to recoup the loss of this budget to any of those 29 posts, because it will be important, particularly in terms of beefing up capacity. The second one relates to the point raised on the economy, particularly in relation to the infrastructure investment. Your assessment indicates that both freight and commuter rail has been in decline over a number of years, and the reason for the decline is the unavailability of trains, and this has forced commuters to use alternative transport. The question that one would like to pose is, does the department express itself on whether the strategic targets set by departments in their APPs and 5-year strategic plans, are they committed enough to ensure that it talks to these issues, particularly because one of the issues that we noted during the APP of the department was this target that was set of 10% of transfer of freight from a road to rail, which was a bit of a concern, given the devastating impact that this freight has on our roads. But also then the next one relates to the fact that an estimate has been made that between 50 and 70 kilometers of overhead copper cables are stolen from the railway network weekly, which to a larger degree has an impact in terms of the cargo that we are able to export, and thereby also having an impact in terms of the revenue that we generate. So it will be important to check as to whether in your interaction with the department, do you look also at the indicators that the department put in place to monitor the impact of the ban imposed on the export of copper? Because I believe that this is an area that has now led to devastating impact. I see in some of the mines, Section 189 is also under proceeding, particularly if you look at Anglo-American mines, whether it's Colombia, whether it is Kumba. And obviously this has an impact arising from the constraints in terms of our freight and logistic. But also an area that I suspect I might need clarity on the assertions that you made, that before enacting the National Health Insurance Bill, governments should consider its governance limitations. I know that the bill has been passed by the National Council of Province, and it is on the table of the president to assent. But now you say that before it is enacted, it has to consider the government limitations. But more than that, also you are saying that the NHI may have unintended consequences on governance. it will be interesting just to get a sense in terms of what does that entail, because we expect the president to sign the bill that is on his table. Let's then give back to you, Commissioner Ramatsetse, to respond to the questions posed by members.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, for this opportunity, and thank you, members, for raising the questions. So maybe let me start with a few questions that I can answer, and then I'll also bring in my colleagues to also support. So I think the first statement that has been made to say this should be maybe an MPC with an emphasis on monitoring. So indeed, I do agree with that, but currently there has been a number of comments around whether NPC is responsible for implementation. So we have corrected that notion to say it's called the National Planning Commission. So that means responsible for long-term planning. So in terms of monitoring and review is part of one of our mandates. So hence I did mention in my presentation to say we are currently working on the implementation tracker tool. So we are collaborating with CSIR DPME to develop this tool that will be able to track the different indicators as mentioned in the NDP. So we are able to track in terms of how well we are doing, looking at different phases of the National Development Plan. So in addition to that, answering the question of Honorable Tim, so definitely the analysis, we analyzing it per province. In some cases, we even go deeper to analyze it by district, municipalities, and so on. So we do have data available, readily available. So everything has been integrated in this dashboard. So today we wanted to share the findings, but at a particular point in time, we will be speaking about the dashboard, which shows us how far we are and what are some of the gaps that exist in achieving some of the targets. So I think you mentioned another question around stakeholder participation. I think it's Honorable Lydia. So indeed, we held a number of stakeholder engagements. And as I've mentioned, we have grouped ourselves in different work streams, one focusing on economy, social, governance. Economy, we have engaged stakeholders responsible for assisting us to ensure that we unlock some of those factors that are preventing us from. I did mention that we've also engaged DBSA, we've also engaged IDC in terms of social, we've also engaged other partners that are responsible for some of the indicators, more especially focusing on education. We've engaged DBSA, DBE, we've also engaged Department of Higher Education and Training, and also a number of stakeholders in terms of informing the work we do. So we did get a full participation from our stakeholders. However, this is still an ongoing task. We are still engaging a number of other stakeholders in informing some of the advisories that will be published in the near future. So we are also embarking on the number of other initiatives in terms of assisting us to plan better. I did indicate the scenario planning as well as the future thinking approach that we are adopting in assisting us to develop various scenarios that are possible towards 2030, and in doing so, come up with interventions that will assist us in ensuring that we are on track. I did mention the issue of us trying to work towards reducing the red tapes, especially to unlock the growth of SMMEs. So that's one of the task team in the economy focusing on that. as well as I've also indicated the potential of the agriculture as a potential to create those number of jobs that we have indicated. So the NDP has highlighted those number of jobs that must be created. But as an NPC, we believe that the potential of the agriculture and the agro-processing has not been fully explored. So hence, the focus is also on that to ensure that we fully harness. So I think I'll give over to maybe one of my colleagues, maybe Tsepo Fela, to highlight some of the issues around the economy, and then followed by maybe Puli Molokwani, who's going to also touch on other issues related to governance.
Okay, thanks, Commissioner. Good morning, colleagues. I think, man, let me just address one or two issues, especially around what should government do to encourage investment within the country. From our perspective and from our studies, there are two issues that have been a hindrance in that regard. One being the infrastructure, and secondly being our financial system. On the infrastructure side, the reluctance of international big businesses to reinvest in the country because of certain infrastructure issues, including your transport, electricity, water, and so forth. An example being the rail, and the companies that rely on rail have been extremely reluctant, and this has had an opportunity cost on the country of billions, billions and billions of rands, simply because of our rail system. We do have a national infrastructure plan in place. I think it's called NEP 2050. And in there, it speaks of certain elements and certain infrastructure projects that the government should undertake, to bring the country to par. However, the implementation of that has been a bit slow. And if we get that right, we should see an upsurge in investment from different countries, which of course then relates to employment, relates to economic growth, balance of payment, our exports, increases and so forth. And so there's a whole chain reaction on that. On the other issue of financial systems, this goes back to the trust of the financial markets within our country. Our grayscaling rating has not been a coincidence, and it simply means that our governance structures in the financial system are not really up to par, and the confidence within our financial systems and the investments that needs to be put within our country, there's no confidence that it will yield whatever it needs to yield. Without getting into the technicalities of it or the mathematics of it, but those are the main two issues. The low-hanging fruits, if you will, that needs to be fixed immediately, and you should see a very significant upsurge within the investments within the country. The issue on employment, because employment is affected by a number of things, and it's I believe I call it cost cutting. This spans all the way from education to the SMME environment to the very investment into the country that we speak of. And so there's a lot of levers that needs to be pushed or that they can be adjusted to create employment. And it's not necessarily one thing that can be done. We've seen, the number of graduates that are unemployed. So we cannot say that schooling will solve unemployment because clearly it's not. And we've seen that the labor market has had a huge supply of labor and very little demand. And in that case, then we need to create the demand side and look at the demand side factors. And these are affected by the economic issues that we've spoken about, the investment, the infrastructure, and so forth and so forth. So we then need to have a holistic picture and say, okay, if SMMEs are assisting this unemployment and reducing inequality, what sort of environment then should we create for SMMEs to thrive? What are the issues that we need to adjust? Whether it's, for example, things like red tape or bylaws or whatever the case might be. So we will have to sit and look at that holistically and say, okay, these are the things that we need to adjust to improve investment in the country. And this is how it relates to the employment. This is how it will improve the employment by a certain percentage or so forth. And, economically speaking, the rule of law general will say, 2% growth in the economy yields to a certain percentage in employment and so forth. And those are the sort of the theoretical things that we can look at. On the implementation side, of course, it might be a different story, and that is an exercise by itself. But we need to be deliberate about it, especially looking at the infrastructure plan to say how does this infrastructure plan affect business? How does it affect employment? How does it affect schooling? How does it affect trade in general and exports and so forth? And we need to be deliberate and look at the plan, revisit the plan, and say, what do we need to adjust then to achieve these particular targets of the NDP? Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Fela. Commissioner Molokwane.
Thank you, Commissioner Ramatsatsi. Good afternoon, everyone, and apologies for being late. I had said that I'm on the road, I'm traveling. One, I will start with the question on the APPs of the Department of Transport. We do not have full sight of the APPs, but we can talk to what is required as a country as far as what the NDP says. Even if the APPs are aligned with what the NDP says, the fact of the matter is that what is on the ground is not what the country needs. We all know that our people continue, especially the poorer ones, to spend the bulk of their income commuting to work because they are far from work. Of course, there are many factors. There are special issues that places our people in the periphery of where there are economic activities. And probably all what we can say as the National Planning Commission is that we need to make sure that all the plans that we have work. Our infrastructure has kind of dwindled. Our rail has kind of collapsed. So for those that used to use trains as their means to work, they do not have that anymore. It has become a bit unsafe to even use trains, let alone the fact that we've got roads that even are called deadly roads, which is not a term we should be having as a nation. On the issue of the participation of stakeholders, I think we do appreciate the opportunity that we get given by the portfolio committees to engage with them together with NCOPs, because we have had a few engagements with SONP and so NCOP, but we do not get kind of similar engagements with the rest of the state. And maybe this is an opportunity for us, together the NTC and the different portfolio committees, to start finding a way where we can work together. I normally say to my colleagues that we really need to find a system where we've got structured engagement between the departments, between Parliament, between Cabinet, and general stakeholders of the public. When we do call the public, we do get the public to come through. When we call business, we do get them to come through and participate. We have even authored some of our advisories based on the help and the assistance and the contribution that comes from the general public and civic association. But when it comes to the departments, we really don't have that. In fact, sometimes I say we produce work, but we then struggle to get it to filter into the implementers, since we are not the implementers. And that's something that we really need to fix. I'm not sure how we're going to do that, because even in my term in the second commission, my first term, we used to struggle with that. We technically, to a larger extent, rely on the relationships that individual experts, commissioners have with the departments and different stakeholders, including municipalities, for us to get a hearing and for them to contribute, and for us to even be aware what they are doing. I mean, I'll give a recent example. DPME is busy with the MTDP program. Municipality are running their own program on their IDP. And we're supposed to be planning for the same country and working towards the same goal, but our planning cycle are not even aligned, let alone the fact that we are not even talking to each other as the others are doing that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you,
I'm not
Commissioner
sure,
Molokwane.
Commissioner, if you would like me to respond. Is there any specific question that you'd like me to respond to if I missed something? I thought you addressed some and Commissioner Fella has.
Okay.
There's
No,
one that has not been addressed, the NHI.
Chair, can I ask what was asked about the NHI before I just respond on what the Commission says about the NHI?
The report says that before the NHI is enacted, there has to be some consideration given to the limitation to
Okay.
I don't understand what does it mean when
Okay.
it says before it can be enacted, there has to consideration has to be given to a governance limitation. What further
do we
also,
mean?
Yes, but also it says
Okay.
NHI may have unintended consequences in relation to governance. What does that mean? Yes.
Okay, let me start with a statement that says the NDP is in full support of the NHI. And I think those statements sometimes tend to make some people feel that we're not in support of the NHI. But what we are saying as the NPC is that we need to relook at how the governance is gonna work. One, the budget of those many trillion rands in one department governed literally by one minister who literally controls everything that when it comes to the NHI. It's a bit of a risk. This is going to be one of the biggest budgets that we have as a state. And we need to be conscious of that and probably find a way of some control mechanism. If ever there is also a way, allow the budget to run from where the rest of the budget runs from, which is National Treasury, because in the current form, it's more like everything is centralized around the Department of Health. In fact, I remember when we were in another discussion over the weekend at our local that this will create a kind of a super ministry. And if anything is not done properly in that ministry, it means our entire health system has collapsed, which is literally in trillions of rands. And that is even going to be more detrimental than what we're seeing now, because what it simply means is that even those that have been in the healthcare facility as it currently is will be failed by the same system. So the system will fail literally all of us. And those are the governance issues that we are referring to. And Chair, you would know, we really don't have a good history when it comes to multi-million, if not billion rands kind of projects. And we were just saying, can we maybe have a look at how this is gonna maybe find a way of segregating powers so that not everything is concluded within the Department of Health by the Minister of Health. The appointment of the board, the appointment of the CEO, the appointment of all bodies that are in the health fraternity and runs the NHI fund still within the department is not centralized under one ministry. And that's basically what we are saying. And to a certain extent, if at all it's possible to face it in and present opportunities, because the one boom approach of everybody and every cent or every money and contribution going into the NHI may not necessarily be ideal. We also, in our discussions, have referred to systems that are in Canada, in the US, and other countries that have got a functioning NHI system that, in fact, even the UK, none of them has been able to, with accuracy, cost the NHI system. So we are just looking at another huge monster here that we need to find a way to make it easy so that we do not create another Medupi and Kusile where we end up having done more damage than good when the intentions are all good. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Now get a sense where is the commission coming from. Any last word, Commissioner Ramatsitse? Before I give over to members to check as whether they do not have any follow-up.
Okay, I have another Commissioner, Sue Bannister. Bannister, I don't know if you have few comments to raise.
Okay, yeah. I've noted you, Honorable Khai. I'll give you, let's allow the last commissioner to respond, then I'll give you an opportunity to do follow-ups. Thank you.
Okay, I'm happy also, thank you, Anna, to go after the other questions in case there are issues that I could respond to there. It's up to you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair. I think we can, at this juncture, get the next round of questions and then we can have concluding remarks at the end.
Okay.
Thank you. Honorable Khai?
No, thank you very much, Chair. I appreciate the responses to our questions. Just on this issue of the lack of poor coordination between the spheres of government, I just want to find out whether the NPC, does it engage various spheres of government? Because the doctor was referring, I think Dr. Mlukwan was referring to the fact that they will be planning at a national level, but then at a local government, something else is taking place. Just want to find out if, do they engage spheres or even entities when it comes to the implementation to achieve the targets that are set perhaps in government at all spheres of government, including the issue that she has just raised with regard to the fears in terms of the implementation of the NHI. Have they engaged the Department of Health and raised those concerns, Chair? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Khai. Honorable Dango?
Person following what almost onto what Honorable Khai said, it is the statement that they need to phase in the question of the NHI. Can they unpack for us what that phasing in would mean, how long that would be, and what it would entail? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Dango. Just the other two questions from my side. In relation to governance, a reference was made to the draft National Development Planning Framework Bill, which aims to institutionalize planning in the country. It will be important just to get a sense in terms of what will be what is the key challenge that this bill is trying to introduce, but also the constraints within the logistics The Parliament has just passed the Economic Regulations of Transport Bill, which was sent to the president, and among the key issues that the bill addresses is the introduction of the third-party access to the rail infrastructure. So the question as to whether the commission might have had a side of this, given the emphasis that transport and logistics is also raised as a constraint in terms of our economic growth. And the last one relates to the assertion by the NPC that the implementation of the national framework towards the professionalization of the state has to be expedited. When the two bills passed by from I think the Public Service Administration Bill and the Public Service Management Bill, which has been sent to the National Council of Province after it was passed by the National Assembly. The question that one is posing to the Commission is in relation to the indicators that the DPME could identify in relation to coordination between the departments. This is important because the Auditor General, in assessing the annual reports of the Department of Public Service Administration, the National School of Government, and also the Public Service Commission, on the implementation of the national framework, they identified that it lacks, there is a lack of clear lines of accountability between these three departments. It will be important just to get a sense in terms of, or probably just an emphasis around the need for the Commission in its engagement with the Department of Public Service Administration, because you did indicate that there has been some engagement, because the National School of Government, the Public Service Commission, the Public Service Administration are quite critical. But now, if the annual report of the AGs says there's a lack of clear lines of accountability, I think it's an area that needs also the attention of the Commission, so that at least we are able then to ensure that the implementation of the national framework towards the professionalization of state is achieved. Thank you. Over to you, Commissioner Ramatsa.
Just before that, there's something that slipped my mind. I was to ask, because I was a bit concerned that the one commissioner was saying that they were not aware of a particular department's APP. I find that as a concern, because when it comes to the implementation of the NDP targets, it is this department that they're supposed to be implementing them. So if then the NPC is not even aware of what is contained in those APP, how are they going to monitor the implementation of the APP? Because those APPs should be aligned to the NDP goals in terms of their implementation. But my view is that all these APPs are supposed to come to the NPC or DPME so that they are seen to be in line with the NDP goals. That's why I was adding earlier, but I'm happy that it has been confirmed that part of the mandate of the NPC is to monitor the implementation. Though they're not responsible for the implementation, but their mandate is also to monitor their implementation. Because for me, I think it would make sense if these APPs would come to the NPC so that they are check if they are in line with the goals of the NDP, including the entities, the state-owned entities. So it slipped my mind because it was one of the issues I wanted to make a follow-up on. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Khai. Honorable Commissioner Ramatetse.
Thank you, Chair, for the questions. I think I'll address a few and then I'll also give it to my colleagues to address some of them. So I think you have an honorable member asked the question of whether we are indeed engaging the 3 spheres of government. So definitely we are engaging the 3 spheres of government. I did indicate one of our mandate. Also, one of our strong emphasis is around, our convening power, to be able to convene various stakeholders. That will definitely be instrumental in ensuring that make informed decisions around where the country's direction is to go in terms of achieving the NDP targets. So in terms of the National Development Plan, when it was launched in 2012, if you remember, it was followed by the provincial development plans, which were launched the following year. So we are currently engaging with a number of provincial legislature. We have firstly engaged Eastern Cape in terms of the 10-year review that they are conducting for their provincial development plan. So we will be also engaging other provinces to also identify some kind of similarities in the reports that we are going to get from the different entities. So with that, I've also indicated that we have engaged a number of municipalities, Waterberg being one of those, as well as eThekwini, on also a number of projects that we are doing at that particular level. I think with all these engagements is to ensure that there is a more coordinated and a coherent approach to how these elements fit towards the National Development Plan. So I think we have also asked the question around the NHI bill. I think I'll give it to Commissioner Molokwane just to follow up on that. Thanks.
Chair, through you. Thank you very much, Commissioner Ramatetse. I will start with the APP, the contents on the APPs of the Department of Transport and our not being familiar or rather not knowing the contents of it. The monitoring role is done by DPME. I'm sure DPME can talk to the details, what is contained in there. We receive data from DPME. It is upon receiving that data that we will then say we have not achieved, or we have achieved, or the department has achieved, or the department has not achieved. In fact, that's what we even mostly used to come up with our 10-year review. Even the review that we did in 2020, we used data that we received from DPME as the Department for Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation. So they are the ones that will go through item by item, item by item as to what's contained in the different APPs of the different departments. And probably we can do better and work better and organize better going forward in making sure that we also can have full sight of that without necessarily stepping into the role of DPME. I will also respond to the issue of the NHI. In terms of engaging the DOH, we have engaged the department, we have engaged the portfolio committee on health, we have done so, have had a lot of stakeholder engagements and had a written submission even to the Portfolio Committee of Health before the NHI was sent to Cabinet. Unfortunately, most of what we raised did not probably see through the final document or bill that was approved by Cabinet. Maybe there are reasons for that, and we did even raise that issue with the president when we met the president, that these are our concerns, this is what we raised with the Portfolio Committee, but somehow they were not taken into consideration. But at least maybe what would be appreciated from the National Planning Commission is knowing what the thinking was, and maybe why those that were tasked with finalizing the bill did not think that what we raised really needed attention even before the bill was approved by Cabinet. But I guess it's another discussion for another day. Then Commissioner Ramatete has talked to the collaboration. The NHI facing in, the NHI that we are looking at, or the bill that we're looking at currently, does not give citizens an option. So technically you can't opt out of an NHI, or you can't even have kind of a dual cover. It literally says we should all be part of the one system, which has got no problem if everything is working and if things work similarly. We don't have the details of even the phasing out. Is just one of the things that we talk about. We did not even put it formally as maybe it should be phased in, but it's something that we thought maybe as it stands, shouldn't there be a way to create options so that if I cannot bring help by waiting in the queue to get chemo for another year or two, can I have an option to do something else? Especially if I can afford to do that. Because what the NHI says is we will all fit into the same system. If I'm diagnosed with cancer today and I need to start chemo in 2 months, I'll have to wait my 10. And that 10 may not even find me here. And it's in those kind of things that we really need to think about creative ways of implementing the NHI. It may not necessarily be facing in, it may be having a dual system, but we really need to think broader than just having a one system for all. Eventually, we will arrive at a one system for all, but maybe we need to build this big house brick by brick, if not probably room by room, and we can, back in my village, we say you can extend, you can make it bigger at some point once we are fine and we have addressed the issues that we are raising and highlighting as the commission. On the planning framework bill, the planning framework bill is set to, it's one bill that could assist us to put the responsibilities properly where they belong legally. As it stands, the National Planning Commission exists not as part of any law. The roles are not defined by any part of law. And our working between DPME also is not defined by any kind of law. Our workings with the departments and municipalities are not defined by any law. By this framework, generally, we're trying to say, let's just have an approach where we can synchronize, we can collaborate better. Let's all plan at the same time, plan for the same thing, and let everybody knows their role, who is responsible for what. I made an example of the process of the MTDP and the process of the IDP, which are not aligned. We somehow find each other talking, and then the municipalities or our local government is done, and national is still on it, or vice versa. So those are the kind of matters that we really need to try to address. The the professionalization of public service framework has been approved, and we are excited as the Commission that that has been approved. What we remain to do and follow up as the NPC, and we will make sure we do that, is the implementation thereof. And all we are saying is that we need all of society, all of government, all of South Africa to make sure that the professionalization of public service bill is really framework is implemented, and let it not sit and we not reap the fruit for it. I'm sure we all know what it's meant to achieve. It's meant to just say put meritocracy ahead of anything, have the separations of power so that the technocrats can do their work, and let those that are tasked with the executive mandate focus on that, and therefore there be no stepping on toes or what I would loosely call as interference. And the Public Service Amendment Bill seeks to enhance that as well. For us to be able to do that, the aspects of the professionalization of the public service requires that the Public Service Amendment Bill is changed so that the mandate of the role players is properly defined, and it is defined by law. If we go only with the professionalization and not change the Public Service Amendment Bill, we may just find these bills kind of talking against each other or past each other. Chair, I think I have responded to most of the questions raised by members. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Ramatetse.
Okay, I'd like to allow
I see that
Sue Bannister.
Commissioner Bannister has hand up too.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Chair. I just thought I would come in. I think Dr. Molokwali has answered many of the questions, but I thought I would come in because my area of work is around local government and spatial inequality, and transport is obviously there for a hugely important part of that. And I think the issue that was spoken earlier about by yourself, Chair, and by Honourable Hai, around the need for coordination and cooperation between the spheres of government is so important around transport. Because the issue is that as Department of Transport can develop incredible infrastructure and amazing facilities, but if you don't get the cooperation of all spheres of government around that, it's just not going to work. And I mean, the Durban port is one example. So not to say that the goings on in the port are ideal at the moment, but the issue is that access to the port is a city function, and then you've got the transport, the provincial department also who comes in. So it's that cooperation and alignment that is so important, and that was, I think, the issue that Dr. Molokwani referred to around the importance of the planning bill, which tried to ensure that coordination to some extent. The DDM has been another initiative to try and get that coordination between the spheres of government, but there again, we've seen a great lack of participation by many of the national departments, as well as the provincial departments, and even in some cases, local entities have not participated. I think the economic regulation of transport is another good example about how important governance is, because we don't want to end up like many other countries where we've kind of, in a way, privatized our infrastructure, and it gets used for a select few and not for the benefit of the country, and generally the maintenance of that infrastructure goes up. So it's just another example of an area where governance and coordination between the spheres of government is so important. Also, in areas such as the implementation of the Transport White Paper and the National Transport Regulation Act, I think many of those, one of the questions was around whether there are indicators that can be developed on kind of issues of accountability. And I think many of those have requirements for the different spheres of government, and indicators should be developed from those in terms of the roles and responsibilities. But I think there's not a huge amount of follow-up on that in terms of the responsibilities of the different spheres of government and whether they are actually doing what they should be doing. Thanks, Chair. That was just my input.
Commissioner Ramatsitse?
Okay, no, thank you, Chair. I think from my side, essentially, what we are saying in a nutshell as an NPC is we are saying we want to bring back NDP to the center of all government planning actions as well as policy interventions. We want to say with the whole of society approach that Dr. Molokwane was referring to say we need all stakeholders on board. We need local government, we need provincial government, we need national government, we need private sector, we need NGOs. With all of the society approach, we believe that all these things are possible, all these initiatives and solutions that we are proposing, they are very much possible. So with collaborations, a multi-sectoral approach, we believe that we can achieve the goals that we have set together as a country. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ramatsitse. Any word from the DPME? I see we had a number of colleagues. We had Advocate Timani, we had who's the DDG for Public Service Monitoring Capacity, and Thomas Goes. Any word from this team before we close? I take that you have sufficiently represented them, Commissioner Ramatsitse. Let's then take this opportunity to indeed express our appreciation from the presentation made by yourself and your team, particularly given the body of research and study and evidence that you have laid before us, because it is quite critical for our country's development trajectory. And we believe that at the center of that is the issue of long-term planning. And we believe that the scientific use of evidence and the quality of empirical data is quite important, particularly in the reflection of the last 10 years that the Commission has done. But more than that, we believe that there are also a number of areas of focus, particularly the call to action that is at the center of mobilizing various key role players, whether it is government, whether it is parliament, whether it is society, whether it's the private sector, with a view to ensure that we mobilize our communities around the implementation of the National Development Plan. So having said that, Commissioner Ramatsitse, let me formally again reiterate our appreciation and also express a word of gratitude to the honorable members for the manner in which they engage with the presentation from yourself and the Commission and the department, the support that we got from the parliamentary staff in terms of the preparation infused in this meeting, and our communication team, the PMG, and also our public. Have a wonderful afternoon. Therefore, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Chair.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Thanks,
Bye,
colleague.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.